What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Amateur Hour TV for another video on the second channel for Amateur Hour. On this channel, I like to go through additional NBA-related topics, usually concerning the Toronto Raptors. Not so much in this one, maybe a little bit, but I like to go through additional content that I just cannot get to on my main channel, Amateur Hour Sports, so I do so on this channel instead with the vibes a little bit different, a little bit more informal, a little bit more of a personal touch to myself, but still, hopefully, the same NBA content that you love to see from myself. If you like to see the content, make sure you drop a like to support this video and consider subscribing. It helps on the road to 2,000 subs. You get 3 or 4 videos like this every single week. You also get 3 videos a week, at least on my main channel, Amateur Sports, only 12,000 subscribers. Go check that out. You also get 2 to 3 videos a week on my Amateur Clips channel, the best highlights from our Twitch streams. And you also get 3 streams a week on Twitch, and you're going to get watch parties for Raptors games on YouTube starting this regular season. Lots of great content from Amateur Sports, but let's get into our content for today. Talk about Bojan Bogdanovic going to the Detroit Pistons. The Pistons finalized this trade yesterday morning. Yesterday, we did a video about Ime Udoka. In that video, I promised that I would do the video about Bojan Bogdanovic today and link it back to the Raptors. And as you can see, because I took off my headphones and I flipped my hat backwards, it is a different day. And no, I am not recording it for the second time because I forgot to turn on my microphone for the first time, in case you were wondering. But Bojan Bogdanovic to the Pistons. Now, this is pretty surprising. Like, if you told me to write down 15 NBA teams that might trade for Bojan Bogdanovic, the Detroit Pistons would not be on that list. We're going to talk about that a little bit more. But the Pistons get this trade done for peanuts. They do not give up a lot in order to get this trade done and bring in Bojan Bogdanovic to their team, which definitely is surprising. And the fact that they gave up very little, makes you think as a Raptors fan with all these assets and maybe who needs a little bit of a boost in this loaded Eastern Conference. Make you think a little bit, well, why didn't the Raptors make a trade like this? But what is the actual trade in question? As reported by the Woj today, and this was like minutes after Shams Charania was reporting that there was a trade possibly happening, and then like minutes later, they both confirmed the trade. Bogdanovic to the Pistons for Kelly Olynyk and Saben Lee. Now, the Pistons, Kelly Olynyk's an okay player. They're not gonna miss either of these two guys, and they're getting in Bojan Bogdanovic. Bojan Bogdanovic makes about $20 million, a little bit less, and only for 1 year. So it's an expiring contract for a Pistons team who was not good last season and are probably not going to be great this season. Odds makers have the Pistons winning about 27, 28 games this season. I personally have, before this trade, like weeks ago, I put 4 units of my own money on the Pistons to win over 27.5 games. Within seconds of seeing the report from Shams that they were trading for Bogdanovic, I put an additional 7.5 units on the Pistons to win over 28.5 games. So I thought the Pistons were going to be a decent team this season. I think they're obviously going to be even better now, adding in a player like Bogdanovic, not really losing any such value in return. I think this is a good move for the Pistons. We're going to talk about that in a second. For Bogdanovic individually, I mean, I really like this video here. Oh, actually play it.
Take him to Detroit. No, not Detroit. No, please.
So yeah, getting sent to Detroit, maybe not the best circumstance for a player, but I mean, for Bogdanovic, he played for the Pacers, for the Jazz of the East. He played for the Jazz, for the Pacers of the West. And I compare these two teams because they're two teams who are were just in the middle of the pack in the playoff picture, 4 or 5 seed every year. But they were always too scared to make any sort of big trade to actually contend, so they never actually went anywhere with those teams. Now he's going to Detroit, and I'm sure he wanted to go to a playoff team, maybe even a contender, maybe even a playoff team like the Toronto Raptors, but he ends up in Detroit. Now, I think you're going to go over those 28 wins that I had for them in the odds makers. By the way, Vegas, like everybody always says the Vegas odds. Like, people outside of Vegas make odds too that are similar to those ones. So it's not just Vegas. Anyways, they're going to go over that, but this is a loaded Eastern Conference. There are 9 really good teams already. There are obviously the top three, the Bucks, the Celtics, who I think will still be fine regardless of Ime Udoka, the Sixers. Then you've got another tier of teams. You've got the Raptors, of course, the Heat, the Hawks, the Cavaliers. That's already 4 more. That's 7 already. You've got the Bulls, and you've also got the Brooklyn Nets. That is 9. Only 8 teams are making the playoffs. One of those teams is not. I think it's going to be Chicago. But Chicago are a good team that is not going to make the playoffs. Gone are the days of the Eastern Conference where you can win like 39 games and get in, like, be an 8 seed. Last year, the Cavaliers won, I think, 44 games and didn't make the playoffs. The Pistons are not winning 44 games. They might win 35. They might win 33. I think they'll get over 30. But they're not making the playoffs. What they will do, and this is part of the reason why I invested so much money into them winning these games, they are going to try to win this season. They're going to try to win as many games as possible. They've done a good job building up a team of young players through the draft and through trades in the last few years. They've really turned around this franchise, and the future is bright. And if you're a Pistons fan, this trade is exciting because your team wants to go win games next season. Now, you're not going to make the playoffs, I don't think, at least. Imagine revisiting this video a year later and they make the playoffs. You're not going to make the playoffs. You're going to win a good amount of games, more than you usually win, and you're going to put yourselves on a great trajectory here. I really like the core, and I think it's going to be a playoff team down the road, just not going to happen yet. This is some great floor spacing for a player like Cade Cunningham. You struck gold with Cade Cunningham, got him the first overall pick, and you got Cade. It was the fade for Cade season, and many think that Cade will be the best player to come out of that draft class. Now, I have my eyes on somebody else. Maybe if you're watching this, you do as well. But unmistakably, Cade could be the best player to come out of this draft class. You are really helping his development by giving him the extra floor spacing to be the player he wants to be and express himself by acquiring Bojan Bogdanovic here. It's a nice veteran presence to bring in. And, let's just take a look at the sort of stats that maybe they can be expecting from Bogdanovic next season. Now, this is a bit of a regression to what he would normally put up, what he did last season. You could say that's about age and maybe it's going to get worse. You could also say he's going to find his feet again. But 18 points per game on 39% shooting from 3 is going to be great for this team. And, there's a lot of other young players like Cade Cunningham, as I mentioned. You've also got Ivy. You've also got Beef Stew, Sadiq Bey. Talk about Jalen Duren, who they just got. This is going to be a nice piece just to give the extra floor spacing to let these guys thrive a little bit more. I think that this Detroit team has a good ceiling. Maybe not a fantastic one, but I think it has a good ceiling. I think this might just help them increase that a little bit more because I think it will aid with the development process of these players, especially if they're going out with the ambition to win games this season, which maybe this season they weren't doing. Maybe this season there was more focus on tanking. They get that good pick. At 5th overall, they get Jaden Ivey, who maybe should have gone 4th, but what we've seen Keegan Murray, maybe shouldn't have gone 4th. 5th with the right spot. Anyways, good player to get at 5th overall based on what I've seen from the player and based on my projections for that player. So I would say for the Pistons, if you're a Pistons fan and somehow watching a video on my channel, you're going to try to go and win games this season. And the reason, again, why I put money in them is because I think even near the end of the season, as there's jostling for positions in the Victor Wembanyama sweepstakes, I think the Pistons are going to try to squeeze out every win possible this season. I think that the Sacramento Kings are another team that would do that. Hint, hint, if you do gamble on sports, that could be another angle you could be looking at. But as far as the Pistons go, I think this helps them. Now, why the Raptors didn't get themselves involved in here, I talked about it in a video last week on Amateur Sports. I tweeted about it as well. It would have been very difficult for the Raptors to work their way up to $20 million in salary. The guys who are on those sort of contracts are only like Gary Trent Jr. and OG Anunoby, who we obviously would not trade for Bojan Bogdanovic. Come on, guys. How to get there without those guys, you would have had to give up Boucher, Birch, and probably Malachi Flynn. Now, that's doable, and I think that's something the Jazz consider, but I don't think the Raptors would have wanted to do that, to sacrifice that for a year of Bojan Bogdanovic. Maybe your opinion differs, but mine would probably stay similar to that. Looking at it, though, it is a bit of an underpay, and I can see why people might be looking at the Raptors team having done not much to anything really in the offseason. I think they added in a good player at Otto Porter Jr. and made the right signings, but they didn't do anything additional to that in a Eastern Conference where a lot of teams are getting better themselves. And I understand that. It wasn't very feasible for the Raptors to make a trade here that made sense for the organization. So I respect their decision not to do anything. As far as the Pistons, like I said, they're not going to make the playoffs. They are going to beat the Raptors every time they play them because it's Dwayne Casey and we're cursed. But they're not going to make the playoffs. But they are going to help their young guys get better. They are going to try to win as many games as possible. And they might be a fun team to watch this season. Especially watching Cade. I mean, we can respect other teams. Cade's a good player to watch. And this is a young team that has a good future. And maybe the Detroit Pistons just helped improve that future by making a trade like this, getting a player like this, and really not giving up anything that they're going to be concerned about. So, great trade for Detroit. Doesn't really affect the Raptors. Don't think we could have made a trade for Bogdanovic anyways. If we wanted to, we could have. I mean, this is peanuts. There are probably a lot of other teams who should have made this trade, like the Lakers. Oh, my goodness. LeBron needs help, LA. LeBron needs help, Genie. He needs help. But they weren't willing to do it. You didn't even have to give up a pick to get this guy, and you didn't do it. Confusing to me. I can't believe this is all the Jazz got for Bojan. But I mean, I said in the video, I was like, they want him gone before training camp. It's not going to take much to do it. We just didn't have the right pieces for salary. Detroit did, and they pulled the trigger. Good trade for Detroit. We'll see how this affects the league. But that's all. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you did enjoy, be sure to drop a like to give the extra bit of support. Help us reach some new viewers, because when you like the video, YouTube recommends this video to other people of similar interest to you, because it's like, well, if this guy likes it, then this guy with similar interest might also like it. Let's recommend it to him. Helps the channel out. Only take you a second to like the video. Make sure you're subscribed to Amateur Sports as well. My main channel with nearly 12,000 subs for maybe more formal Raptors content 3-4 times a week. We've got a third channel. This is the second. We've got the third channel, Amateur Clips, the best highlights from our Twitch streams. Videos out there 2 to 3 times a week. I stream on Twitch right now for the off season 3 times a week. And on my main YouTube channel, we're doing Raptors watch parties for every single Raptors game. We did it on Twitch last season. We're doing it on YouTube as well this season. We have tons of content in Amateur Sports, the Amateur Hour umbrella of content. Make sure you keep it locked. And I'll see you again next time for another video on Amateur Hour TV.